I can cut out the comedy pieces of this. Is fine. We're here with Barry Scott, Riverside Golf.
Riverside Country Club, yes.
Here with Barry Scott from Riverside Country Club, and Barry's been a user of ByoSoil 100 in the last couple of years, and he's seen some really good impacts on the golf course. I'd just like to ask him quickly, some of the things he's seen and some of the impacts that he's seen on the golf course using ByoSoil 100.
Well, for starters, we're standing on a green that's 100% organic, and this is actually the first place that we experimented with the product. Used it for a whole year in 2010, and the results were none less than phenomenal. The root system in this green, I can put a soil probe down about 12 inches, and roots are still protruding out the bottom of it. And it's not 100% bent, a little bit of weed here and there, but other than that, we moved from this green, which was our test green for a year, saw some great results working with other organic compounds and organic fertilizers. We moved that from there out to our tees, which worked phenomenally. We have a bunch of blue bent grass tees, which we in turn moved the program out to just those tees. There's 7 of them, and the response of those this year, you should see those tees. We didn't treat them for the winter. This has had no pesticides or snow mold or anything, and the same thing applied to the 7 tees out there. We used a few different, I guess I brewed a soup of organic products, which using a beneficial fungicide and doubling the rate with the ByoSoil, and that again was an experimental move.
Sure.
We had not done that. We were running at a 4-ounce rate, and we went to an 8-ounce rate, and we experienced absolutely no disease on any of those areas that we treated. And from there we moved it to the fairways last year, and that was the biggest difference. We spent a grand total of no dollars in fertilizer.
What would your annual fertilizer budget be?
Oh, for the fairways, probably in the $20,000 range, I would say.
Big savings.
Yeah, half of our, more than half, I would say. Well, between roughs and fertilizer, roughs and fairways alone, probably 20,000, roughs another 15,000, and then greens would be anywhere from $7,000 to $8,000.
Okay.
And we didn't buy one bag of fertilizer last year.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
We put the ByoSoil down at a 4-ounce rate once a month, and we had a rainy season, but every time it rained, like you'd see just before, if we had a dry period, you'd see sort of, the getting a little peaked and yellowing out a little bit, and then we'd get a downpour of rain, and the next day you'd come out and you put down iron everywhere. It was unreal.
And the sense there is maybe we're chelating some of that iron and making it available.
Yeah, definitely.
So it makes a huge difference. What about things like, we talked a little bit about fairy ring impact. We're seeing some improvements in fairy ring performance out there in the golf course. You used to have fairy ring in your fairway.
Oh, we had number 2 fairway was just covered in fairy ring, and we used to, like old school, you'd go out with a fungicide, I can't recall the name of the damn stuff, Heritage. We'd go and spend a fortune on Heritage, and then you'd go out with a lot of N and mask it. And last year we had fairy ring up until about the beginning of July, and then I took your representative here, Travis, out to try to find some fairy ring and see the effects. And I knew where some was. 4 days later it was gone. And we haven't had any fairy ring since. Nothing.
Nothing's reappeared?
Nothing. Clean as a whistle. We've seen nothing this spring, which we should have seen it because we've had drought conditions this spring.
Right.
So that would be ideal conditions for the fairy ring. Nothing.
Outstanding. That's good stuff.
And we saw the fairways today. They were just amazing.
Yeah, and lush green, early in the season, as green as they look.
And we don't water these fairways here.
That's all natural water.
We do not irrigate. Haven't irrigated a fairway in the 6 seasons that I've been here.
Unbelievable. Yeah, they look great. And this organic green looks great as well. I mean,
oh yeah, this is a little. We just ripped it with the verticuts and top dress it, and I have a little hand weeding to do. But this basically survives on its own. It gets Mother Nature, the heavy dews and stuff, and we haven't had to touch this thing at all. Nothing. Haven't had. We had a little bit of a disease, what looked like was going to start a little bit of gray snow mold in the spring because of the crazy weather we had, and it just sort of disappeared.
That's wonderful. It seems like when we let Mother Nature do the job, it seems like it definitely makes a big difference.
Definitely. I think what we do, I've been in this business since 1968, and I think what we do and what has evolved over time with the pesticide use and the overuse of pesticides and the overuse of fertilizers is we're creating a weakened state in the plant. I mean, we're creating and they're treated, they produce the same way, they reproduce the same way. So if you interfere them, it's like a person who's on antibiotics all the time. Eventually the antibiotics stop working. So what happens? Sickness comes back, and it's the same principle with greens.
I think by adding that beneficial microbes and getting that population up and getting the system in place and working with it regularly, I think we're starting to see some real benefits here in your golf course.
Well, another thing too that I haven't mentioned to anybody, when I first started here in 2007, we had, this golf course was completely infested with nematodes. And most of the greens would die out. The nematodes attack color really bad. And the environment that was created was an environment basically synthetic. There were the fertilizers, they're pounding the nitrogen to the place, pounding the water to the place, pounding the fungicides. And I did some consulting here in 2004 and told them to shut all that stuff down. And kind of fell on deaf ears. And then when I came here, I just shut everything off, shut the water off. We fertilized the greens with basically about 1.5 pounds of nitrogen to 1.75 pounds a year is what we use. And then the rest of it is just using beneficial products like your product. We use it on a bi-weekly basis now. We were a monthly basis, and now we're on a bi-weekly basis. And the results, all you have to do is change a hole out here, and you'll see that
they speak for themselves out there. Yeah.
And these are all push-up 80-year-old greens too. There's no USGA greens here.
Outstanding. We really appreciate it. It's great to work with a superintendent that sees the value, certainly in the investment in organic products on the golf course, and trying to get away from more of the chemical approach to growing grass and also making golf.
Well, the density, the turf density, that's the biggest thing I noticed is we would get a lot of worm casts on a daily basis. It looked like a mud pie out there in a lot of the fairways. And I'm not sure if it's changed the environment for the worms, but what it has done is it's I would say quintupled the density of the canopy, and that suppresses worm activity.
Much denser grass.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. Like to a person, all the members noticed last year that the fairways were unbelievable. And the start we had this year, we have July conditions on our fairways.
Not a bad way to start the year.
Oh yeah. Well, we've been mowing them since March.
Amazing.
Yeah, we had no disease whatsoever. We had a little bit of fusarium in a couple of the fairways, but that just sort of healed itself over. Didn't spray it. We haven't fertilized fairways in 2 years.
You think about it in the golf industry, how much nitrogen gets put on fertilizer on fairways that runs off into the streams, and it is a great opportunity to do natural type applications. So
what do we have out there?
We've got a huge
river with sturgeon in it, whales, sharks. That's a tributary to the Atlantic Ocean, to the Bay of Fundy. And anything and this is all
got to run off that way.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
So we're very, very sensitive to that because we have a trout stream that is covered over now, but trout spawn up and right up to the 10th hole in the golf course. So
that's not a lot of times people aren't really thinking much about that, but more and more the pressure is to reduce fertilizer.
Oh,
usage,
definitely.
Right? So if we can find ways to do this naturally, not have the fertilizer applications, so much the better for the golf course.
And we deal with the environment a lot here. I mean, to do drainage that we've been doing, I had to deal with the town, where the water was coming from, what was, a lot of that water was coming off the adjacent properties.
Sure.
And most of them were spraying pesticides and everything, so we decided that, we would pipe that stuff down into their sewer system where it could be processed and not straight to the river. So that was a huge,
big change. Capturing some of that stormwater.
Oh, yeah. It cost a few $100,000 to get to change it into the actual sewer system.
Right.
And that's very rare that they will, that the town will do something like that because of the Kennebecasis River. Coming off neighboring properties, the sites and everything, so they decided to process that through their sewage treatment.
That's outstanding. Well, I tell you what, it's great to have a great opportunity to work with Barry and innovate the golf course industry a little bit more with natural products, with ByoSoil and all the other natural products he's using. Makes a big difference in the industry. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Barry. Appreciate your help.